Raider Nation, what's going on? You guys are watching the Raiders Report. Coming up here on today's show, I got Raiders head coach and GM news. Rodgers linked to Las Vegas. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Daniel Jeremiah, he just released a brand new NFL mock. Who did the Raiders get? Bleacher Report, they said that the Raiders have to make these three moves. I'll break them down. And then should the Raiders go out and sign Will Fuller? I saw an article from Just Blog, baby, and I'm going to go ahead and give my 2 cents on that. Well, let's first talk about the head coach news that happened today. The Raiders, they have requested to interview Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive coordinator Todd Bowles. The interview is expected to be on January 27th. Unfortunately, I do not have a time of when exactly that is supposed to be. For those that don't know a lot about Bowles, he is very highly respected to be a great defensive-minded coach, and if you're following a lot of these head coach candidates, they've basically all been defensive-minded guys thus far. Now, I actually got to meet Todd Bowles a few years back when I was a Jets intern, when I was a T-shirt shooting guy. Really cool dude, laid back. However, I do think that there are certain people built to be coordinators or certain guys built to be head coaches. I think Todd Bowles is more of a coordinator. Now, with that being said, maybe you don't care about my opinion, which, hey, it's all good if you don't. Why for yes and for no should the Raiders go out and hire Todd Bowles to be the next head coach of the Silver and Black? Now, the next thing we're going to be breaking down here on today's show is going to be around the GM. It's Dwayne Joseph, and so far as it stands, the only in-house GM candidate has been Dwayne Joseph. Now, he's been with the Raiders the past 3 seasons. Joseph has worked in the NFL and with multiple teams for, 24 years now. He's the director of player personnel for Las Vegas, and I mean, he's done some good things. Now, if he's responsible for some of these past draft picks, I'd be like, I don't know about that. But I do know he is very well respected by multiple front offices throughout the National Football League. Now, in terms of who's been the GMs that the Raiders have requested to interview or are going to interview, so far you got Dwayne Joseph, director of pro scouting for Las Vegas. Trey Brown, he's basically the lead college scout for the Bengals. Dave Ziegler, director of player personnel, that interview has already happened. Champ Kelly, assistant director of player personnel over in Chicago. And then Ed Dodds, president of player personnel for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, here's my question, because I really truly believe that the Raiders are going to go out and they're going to hire a GM before head coach, which is, believe it or not, the logical thing that you should do. So I'm going to tell you who I want the Raiders to hire as GM. But before I tell you, I want you to go down in the comment sections and let me know, who should the Raiders hire as general manager? For me, it's really not that close, because it's not just getting Ed Dodds. It's getting everything that goes along with Ed Dodds. I've watched his track record. I've seen some of the players that he has hyped up. Chris Ballard, who is regarded as one of the best GMs in all of football, can't speak highly enough about this guy. And if you get Ed Dodds, then you're also more than likely, from what I have heard, also going to get Jim Harbaugh. And if I'm really trying to build around a good team, it's Ed Dodds. That's the guy that I want. Now, the next story coming up here is going to be from Chat Sports. And believe it or not, Chat Sports is the company that I work for. My guy, Tom Downey, he was live yesterday on NFL Daily, and he did a segment around the top destinations for Aaron Rodgers, and he had Las Vegas on that list. So what are the chances of Rodgers coming to Vegas? I'm going to go ahead and give it only one no, Chuck. He had say it's a small shred of truth. I mean, I'll probably say there's like a 5% chance that Rodgers comes to Vegas as it stands right now. Now, you know the Rodgers offseason rumors are going to swirl since Green Bay lost 13-10 to the San Francisco 49ers. But here's the thing. The Raiders, they were ranked number 3 on Tom's list, and I mean, I tend to agree with that. I can understand the Raiders being a solid destination for Rodgers. Now, sure, that also means that you probably traded Derek Carr for 2 first-round picks. There's a lot of people that love D.C., but you also have to understand this. If you have an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, I know he's a scumbag. I know he's a piece of shit when it comes to a person, but he had 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he won the MVP just last year. So, I mean, if he wants to come to Las Vegas, you try to do it. Here's the other thing I always say, though. Keep your friends close, enemies closer. I don't want Aaron Rodgers coming closer to me, especially if it's in a Denver Broncos jersey, because then you got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers. That makes Derek Carr the 4th best quarterback in his own division. But here were the destinations that Tom ended up breaking down. He had the Broncos at 1, the Steelers at 2, Raiders at 3, Browns 4, the New York Giants at number 5. And if anybody wants to go check out that video, if anybody wants to subscribe to Chat Sports, it's youtube.com/ChatSportsTV. So if Aaron Rodgers, is traded to the Raiders, what would be your one-word reaction? What if you got a notification on your phone, the Raiders report is going live because they traded for Aaron Rodgers? What would be your one-word reaction to that? Like, would it be like, oh my goodness, that's more than one word, but yeah, it's probably, I'd be like, shit, like, this would be insane. My one-word reaction would be blockbuster because it would have to be just a major type of deal. Now, if you're wondering what are the latest odds out there in terms of which team would be the most likely that Rodgers would go to if he were to leave the Green Bay Packers, here are the top 6 teams. You got the the Broncos at plus 300, Steelers at plus 400, Dolphins 500, Eagles 600, Browns 800, and then with the 6th highest odds, it is the Raiders at plus 950. Now, if anybody out there is like, hey, I want to bet on Aaron Rodgers going to a team, if you want to bet on him going to the Raiders, those odds were from BetUS. So all you got to do is go to chatsports.com/Raiders, promo code Raiders125. What does that mean? It means once you deposit $100 at the link that you see below, and once you use promo code Raiders125, you're going to get $125 for free to bet with. It's the best deal on the internet. That 125% deposit bonus helps when you lose a few weeks. I'm going to be betting on the AFC. I'm going to be betting on the NFC Championship game, and I know I'm going to be betting on the Super Bowl, and you guys can too. Chatsports.com/Raiders, promo code Raiders125. Let's talk about the NFL draft because Daniel Jeremiah, NFL draft analyst over there at NFL Network, he released his latest mock draft, and he had the Las Vegas Raiders taking wide receiver from Ohio State, Chris Olave, at pick number 22. No doubt, wide receiver is a major need for the Raiders, and I feel like I've been sitting here for 3 years in a row saying the Raiders need a wide receiver one. Well, they do. One of my favorite things about Chris, now sure, he's a burner, he's a good athlete, but there are certain guys who are just really good at being able to get open, and that's what Chris Olave reminds me of. Like, you watch Hunter Renfrow. Chris Olave is a better athlete than Hunter Renfrow. But one of the great things about Renfrow is he's a really good route runner, and he just gets open. That's what Olave does, and that's why I Olave him. I know, bad joke. In terms of what Jeremiah said on the Raiders drafting, Chris, this is what he had to say. Olave is going to run really fast. The Raiders have had an obvious need for that element in their passing game since Henry Ruggs' release in November. Deshaun Jackson was a short-term fix, which... sure. I mean, it's definitely short-term, right? Now, in terms of who are my top wide receiver prospects, I tried to break some of these down in terms of overall talent. Garrett Wilson is still my number one, but it's so close. Jameson Williams was my number one, and then he tore his ACL, unfortunately. The more and more on tape I watch, on Drake London, the more and more I like this kid. He's 6'5", former basketball player, can really go up and get the football. Remember Brian Edwards? He was supposed to be this incredible athlete. Yeah, Brian Edwards is like, or Drake London is like Brian Edwards on steroids. Then you got Chris Olave at number 4, Jihad Dotson is at 5, and the only reason why I have Dotson over number 6 would be Traylon Burks from Arkansas is because I believe Dotson would fit better in the Raiders' offense than somebody like Traylon Burks, who's good, but Dotson, I think, would just be a better fit. Now, when you look at the Raiders' wide receiver depth chart as it stands right now, Zay Jones, Deshaun Jackson, those guys are both free agents, but there's no doubt. The Raiders need a wide receiver 1, and to be honest, they probably even don't need a wide receiver 2 because Zay, at best, is a wide receiver 4 on most teams. And Brian Edwards, if he showed me anything this year, he's a red zone option, and that's it because that guy cannot create separation. And if he's the wide receiver 2 next year, the Raiders, I'm telling y'all right now, are going to be in big trouble. So what do y'all think? Will the Raiders draft a wide receiver in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, which, by the way, is in Las Vegas? If anybody knows anyone in Vegas trying to throw a watch party and you want the Raiders report, you want Chat Sports there, hit me up on IG at Mitchell Renz 365. But what do y'all think? Will the Raiders draft a wide receiver in the first round? Type WR for yes, or I want you to type 1 for no. My answer is it 100% depends on free agency. If the Raiders don't get any of their top guys, and in terms of some of the top players I'll talk about here in a second, then yes, you might actually have to go ahead and take a wide receiver in the first round. I personally think that they're going to address a lot of those needs in free agency because whoever the new head coach is, if you decide to keep Derek Carr, he's going to want some of these veterans around. Now, there are tons of talented wide receivers in free agency that you can go out and get. There's probably, I would say, only 3 true wide receiver ones, but there's also a lot of other players that you could pick out, get some cheaper contracts, because if I was a receiver trying to remake my career a little bit, I would absolutely want to go to Las Vegas. Look at what Nelson Aguilar was able to do. Heck, look what Zay Jones did over the back half of the season. If guys want to try to get that big-time payday, or maybe you go somewhere else. But if you want to resurrect your career and then make more money in the future, I think you go ahead. You go to Derek Carr. You go to the Las Vegas Raiders in that offense. Now, the next thing coming up here on today's show is in the offseason, I always try to find stories from other sources out there, because our job is to obviously give you guys the news, give you guys the rumors, but also my opinion on articles that I see. So Bleacher Report, they released an article about 3 moves that the Las Vegas Raiders need to make in the offseason. The first one was they need to add a true wide receiver 1, which I 120, I don't even know how many % agree with this, because you do absolutely need to go out and add a true wide receiver 1. When I think about, there are 3 receivers, and I mean true number 1 types of receivers. Here's your list in terms of free agency. Devontae Adams is at number 1, and he's clearly number 1 in my book. Allen Robinson, I will put at number 2. I think he can run block, and I also know he's got a great relationship with Gus Bradley. We'll see if he's still around. And then at number 3 is Chris Godwin. Now, Godwin's going to be coming off an ACL, but these are the only 3 receivers that I consider in free agency right now, true number 1s. The next thing coming up, improve the defensive interior. Yep, the Raiders really struggled at times getting beat up in the trenches. The way that I would go ahead and address this need would be in the NFL draft. Sure, there's some good DTs in free agency, but they're only good. I don't know if they're going to be any game changers. There are 2 guys. If you're going to go out and draft somebody who can really bolster your defensive line, there are 2 defensive tackles that I absolutely love, and the only 2 DTs that I believe are worth that number 22 pick. First, DeMarvin Leal, 58 tackles, 8.5 sacks last year for Texas A&M. Believe it or not, he is my number 1 defensive tackle. Now, if you want to try to find a really, really big boy, maybe decide to go with a 3-4 front. I still think he's athletic enough to play in a 4-3, but it's Jordan Davis, 6'6", 340 pounds. This guy was an absolute monster in the national championship game, but I got Leal above Davis because the Raiders run a 4-3, and from what I've seen, DeMarvin Leal's a little bit better in a 4-3 than Jordan Davis. Both of those guys would help your defensive interior. The last thing that Bleacher Report said, you got to bench Alex Leatherwood. I believe the exact wording was, you got to get Alex Leatherwood out of the starting lineup, which I'm going to go ahead and say I don't 100% agree with, because if I've learned anything, you got to give guys a lot more time, and the more coaching and more experience they get, the better they can be. Look at Colton Miller. Colton Miller was one of the worst rookie left tackles I've ever seen. Sure, he had some injury issues, but now he got better. He got better in year 2, got better in year 3, and I think everyone watching right now would say, you know what, Colton Miller, he's probably a top 5, top 6 left tackle in the National Football League. Andre James was horrid his first 5 games. Got a little bit better, and now he's one of the better centers in all of football. You know what? He's probably top 10 center right now. For Alex Leatherwood, I would like to see what Leatherwood would be able to do if you had an actual right tackle who you could rely on. Brandon Parker, I'm sorry. You can't rely on him. Go out, get a veteran, put him next to him, and then you see what Leatherwood does. But it also is going to depend on what exactly happens with Denzel Good. Maybe you throw Denzel Good at tackle. Maybe you throw Denzel Good to left guard. Personally, for me, though, you drafted Leatherwood in round 1. You got to go ahead and give him another year, and I would try to find a veteran to put next to him at right tackle. Now, if you guys haven't already, you can always hit me up on IG. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. I always tell people, hey, easy way to stay up to date on everything going on with Las Vegas is to follow me on Instagram. And one of the things that I've been trying to do more often, and I'm going to start doing more often in the offseason, is going live. So I'm telling y'all right now, I am going to be going live on IG at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which now that I'm looking at this, I think it's technically 11 a.m. Pacific, right? Or am I just crazy? Maybe I'm bad with time. It's 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 p.m. Pacific, or 11 a.m. Pacific time. So if you want to join my Instagram live right before the NFL playoff games, just another reason to hit me up. I'm going to set a reminder on Instagram. I'm going to try something else a little bit. But at the end of the day, I like talking to y'all. It's a good way to interact. You guys can come up on the show with me. So set a reminder. I'm going to go live on IG, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday, right before the NFL playoff games. Now, I appreciate everyone who's tuning in. I appreciate everyone who's watching the Raiders Report live. Remember, we go live every single Tuesday. The last story here on our News and Rumors segment is going to be around targeting Will Fuller, and I'm just going to give this one no Chucky heads. Tuck rule, tuck that. there was an article out there by Just Blog Baby by Fansided, and we always say here at Chat Sports, you know, a lot of times the garbage people, they come around once a week, but Fansided, they're good at putting out garbage content every single week. No, I don't want to take credit away from what this kid had to say because I like his thought process in terms of going out and finding a wide receiver on a cheap prove-it-year type of deal, which I understand. Maybe you were able to get Will Fuller, who's coming off a really bad year. He's also missed 42 games in 6 seasons. The only reason why I'm giving it no Chucky heads, tuck rule, tuck that, is because there's a better option out there if you want to find a speedy receiver who you can also get on a cheap prove-it-year type of deal. Now, Will Fuller, the past 5 seasons, when he's been healthy, he's been good. The issue is he hasn't really been healthy and he hasn't been good. He had 4 catches for 26 yards this year in Miami, and he made $10 million. I personally think that you're going to have to go out and pay him a little bit too much money for the type of player that he is. And if I am going to go out and I'm going to try to find a cheap, prove-it-year type of guy who's fast, he's speedy, the guy that I personally think would be a better fit and a better target is DJ Chark, and it's somebody who I hope starts getting a little bit more light. Now, he's my 6th best wide receiver in free agency, but I think you could get him on a cheap prove-it-year. Will Fuller, he was a first-round pick. A lot of those first-round pick guys, they got big egos. They want big-time contracts. Chark, he was a second-round pick, 61 overall from LSU. Last time I checked, a lot of these guys from LSU, they look pretty damn good to me. Now, here are his career stats. When you look at 2021, he injured his ankle, I believe, is what the injury was, and that was the final year of his rookie deal. If I was Chark and if I was his agent, I'd be like, all right, sign a 1-year, prove-it type of deal with a team that, guess what, has been able to show that they can create a lot of good things for these young players. I mean, back in 2019, he had over 1,000 yards. 2020, 706 yards. He has even put up better numbers than Will Fuller. Now, sure, he's missed 22 games in 4 seasons. He played in only 2 games this season. But if you're looking for an electric athlete that can stretch the field, DJ Chark, I can make the argument, is an even better athlete than Will Fuller. Now, sure, the 40-yard dash, Fuller, 4.32. DJ Chark, last time I checked, 4.34 seconds, pretty fast. He's 2 years younger than Will Fuller. His vertical, 7 inches higher. If I could give myself an extra 7 inches, you know what I'm talking about, I would do it. 16 extra bench reps, better broad jump. All I'm saying is this, if you're looking for a cheap prove-it deal, DJ Chark is the better option. But I want to know from all y'all because, and if you're the young man that wrote this article, I'm not trying to hate on you. I love that you're trying to create content, but this is just my 2 cents. It's my opinion. Let me know who the better receiver is. Type WF for Will Fuller or DJ for DJ Chark.